Hello and welcome to my introduction on the Major Arcana. Tarot is mysterious. Over the long history of tarot, people have been fascinated with finding meanings and patterns in the cards and their layouts. Whether these were originally intended or not is hard to say, but they have provided us ways to interpret and understand the cards when we're using them for divination. Understanding some of these patterns in the Major Arcana will help us when we start looking at the individual cards and their meaning. If you haven't watched any of my videos before, start here. I'm going to be looking at the two tarot decks that I'm going to be using for the rest of the series and introduce them. But for those that have seen a few of my videos, I'm going to be introducing the Major Arcana and talking about the patterns and the journeys through its cards. So pour yourself a cup of tea, get ready and stay tuned. I'm going to be using two different tarot decks to illustrate my videos. The reason I've chosen to do that is so that the imagery and the symbols that I'm pointing out in the cards may appear on the cards that you've got. They're more likely to. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of different style decks, and I'm using two decks that quite a lot of those tarot cards would be based on. A lot of the artists refer to these historic decks and design their version of the symbology and the imagery on those cards. So I'm hoping by having two different decks rather than just one, I'm kind of catering to 70, maybe 80% of those people with already a tarot deck at home. If you haven't got a tarot deck yet, please refer to my how to choose or how to buy a tarot deck. That should help you with those initial stages. Let me introduce you to the two decks that I will be using in these videos, and you know, if you take a liking to one, you can always pick it up, and I'll put the links down below. So I'm going to be using these two different tarot cards. Let me move my tea out the way. So I've decided to do a Marseille style tarot and a very kind of classic English tarot. This Marseille style tarot is based on the Tarot de Marseille style, which is France, kind of making a peak in about the 1700s. This specific deck is a modern reconstruction of a historical deck based mostly on the Conver deck of 1760. It's called the Veritable Tarot de Marseille, and the person that restored it is called Kris Hadar. I personally love this deck. This is one of my main reading decks. Because it has, you'd have seen it in previous videos, it has a nice kind of aged cream. The lines are crisp and clear. I can see the imagery clearly. You can get historical reproductions of the original 1760s and the 1801s and those things, but the lines aren't as clear because they're woodcuts. So what the restorers do is they kind of decide where the lines should be, and what the symbols are. Sometimes symbols are a little bit unclear. For example, this foot on some of the historical ones, it's not very clear whether that's a foot or a stone. So modern restorers have had to decide whether that's a foot or a stone. So some of the small symbols might differ depending on what Tarot Marseille you've got, but the imagery will be pretty much identical to this, with a few little differences. There's a couple of weird quirks that Hadar put in personally, like on the High Priestess, he's put this kind of yellow halo. That's not on the original cards, but mostly it'll be similar to any Tarot Marseille that you end up picking up. So that's tarot deck number one that I'm going to be using. Quite a lot of modern decks have been based on the Marseille style tarot. So if you've got a Marseille based deck, then the symbology will be similar to what I'm pointing out on that. The other deck that I'm using to illustrate these videos is the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. This doesn't really need an introduction if you know anything about tarot. For those that are very new to tarot, let me just introduce this. This was commissioned by A.E. Waite, who was part of the Golden Dawn, a Western esoteric mystical order. He liked the Marseille deck and had a very strong kind of mystical understanding of the cards, and he commissioned an artist called Pamela Coleman Smith to create the deck in early 20th century. It was first published in around about 1920s, so it's still pretty old. It's about 100 years old now. The couple of things to point out on this is that look for a deck that says Rider-Waite Smith. This is a really old deck that I inherited, so it doesn't say Rider-Waite Smith. But what's becoming quite a common trend is to make sure that the artist is acknowledged. Pamela Coleman Smith basically designed and created these cards, yet in the original name she's not kind of given any credit. The publisher is Rider, and the person that commissioned it, Waite. So it's quite common now to refer to this as Rider-Waite Smith or RWS. So do try and find a box or a deck that has that recognition on the box, because it does kind of help sway people into recognizing Pamela Coleman Smith as the main artist. This deck is quite different from the style of the Marseille. They've made a lot of decisions, and quite a lot of the decisions are based on the beliefs and the teachings of Golden Dawn, but also on the interpretations of A.E. Waite believed on these cards. There's also some aligning the Major Arcana with the Kabbalah, which I will talk about in other episodes. So this might appeal to you. Quite an awful lot of the modern cards are based on these designs. You'll kind of see this very famously in The Magician, this arm up, arm down kind of position. The minor Arcana cards in this are pictorial, they're not pips. I did explain that in How to Choose a Tarot Deck, but very briefly, just in case you skipped it, naughty you, this is a pip card. You can see that this is more than just a playing card. This has got an illustration on it. So this is 9 of staves, and you can see an illustration that kind of depicts the meaning of the card. On the Marseille deck, that's not the case. They're very like a playing card, like a standard playing card. So the number is exactly the count of the coins there. So this is 8 of coins. So one may appeal over the other. For now, the videos are going to be focusing on the Major Arcana, so choose a deck that kind of suits. But those are the 2 decks that I will be working with, and we'll kind of get most of the references. So Rider-Waite Smith or the Tarot de Marseille, and this is the Veritable Tarot de Marseille by Kris Hadar. If you don't have one of these decks and you do have another deck, you will probably spot which one it's more like as we kind of go through the videos, and hopefully some of the symbols will be similar in the deck that you've got. If you don't have a deck, you're starting brand fresh, so feel free to choose whatever appeals. I personally favour this. I talk about this as being a chatty deck or a shouty deck, because it kind of tells you the meaning very, very bluntly, and this one you kind of have to use intuition and introspection. But either or is fine. So that's the first thing. I am illustrating these videos with 2 different decks, and those are the decks. I will put links below this video on those decks and where to pick them up if you want those specifically. So, the Major Arcana. The Major Arcana is probably the most mysterious part of the tarot deck, where the Minor Arcana will resemble very much the ordinary playing card decks with its 4 suits and its court cards and its pip cards. The Major Arcana has nothing similar. it's one of the reasons why people gravitate to the mystery of tarot, because the imagery is mysterious, and where these ideas for these trump cards came from is not very clear. The interesting thing about the just dropping the box there, the Major Arcana is the choice of imagery. There doesn't seem to be like full sets of anything in this Major Arcana. So you'll see everyday characters kind of from a medieval standpoint or post-medieval standpoint. So this is like a beggar. This is a street magician or a juggler. Then you've got people that are kind of heretical and not really true things. So this is the female pope, the papess, sometimes called the high priestess. Heretical, it's against kind of Christian norms to say that a female can be pope, but yet we've got her depicted here. The empress and the emperor, we're back to kind of everyday figures. This makes sense. And then we've kind of gone to the pope, everyday figurehead, that's fine. Now we've kind of moved to concepts. L'Amoureux, the lovers, quite mythological scene with Cupid above, could be seen as several kind of C's in Greek mythology. And objects, the chariot. And now some virtues, justice, and back to people. So the ordering of the tarot doesn't do a section on people, a section on virtues, a section on Christian figures. It seems to jump all over the place. Some of that has meant that tarologists or tarotists have tried to understand the placement, and sometimes it's meant that designers have changed the position of cards to suit their understanding of it. The other interesting thing is that you've not got any full sets. So for example, here we go. We've got a kind of a start to an astrological series here. We've got the star, we've got the moon, and we've got the sun. But that's it. We've not got the zodiac signs. We've not got the 7 planets. That would make sense. The tarot Major Arcana doesn't really make sense in the choice of topics that are dotting through. So there's always an exception in the tarot. There's always something that doesn't quite fit the rule. And as I said, some people accept that and other people design tarot around correcting those inverted commas mistakes. So the Major Arcana is mysterious. Over the years, people have taken these 22 cards and tried to understand them in different ways. I kind of refer to these as patterns or blueprints. So with 22 cards, all of them, except 2 exceptions, have 3 things on them. Those 3 things are a picture, a number, and a title or a name. That is true of all 22 bar 2. So 20 of the tarot majors all have those 3 things. The 2 exceptions are this card here and this card here. I love laying these side by side, I really do. So this is the fool or the fool, sometimes seen as le mat, meaning the beggar. He is obviously left his home. He's without home. He's without abode. He has a picture and a name, but no number. This has been corrected in the Rider-Waite. So if you have a Rider-Waite based deck, you'll see that he's given the number 0. In the original, he doesn't. He's an exception. Sometimes he's given the number 22. In the Rider-Waite, it's 0. And the other card is this one. It's number 13, and he has a number and he has a picture, but no name. So he's like the reverse of the fool. So in some decks, including the Rider-Waite corrected the mistake, inverted commas. He's seen here. as death. Yeah, and they've given him the title to correct the inverted commas mistake. With Marseille-based readers, they refer to this as the unnamed arcana, or the unnamed tarot card, or number 13. And here they just refer to it as the unnumbered arcana, or le fol. So these are the two exceptions from that rule. But other than that, all tarot cards have a number, a name, and an image. Those are three things that you can read from, I suppose. So, like I said, with those 22 cards, there are different patterns. If we take the full being unnumbered and an extra, like it was a joker in a deck, that leaves us with 21 cards. Those 21 cards have often been split in 3 times 7 sets. So 3 sets of 7 cards. Those have different meanings or different hints. So the first 7 is seen as being referring to the everyday world, the consciousness, or the outer concerns of life and society. Those cards contain quite a lot of the people, the personifications that I was talking about. So le Bastelier, la Papesse, l'impératrice, l'empereur, le pape, l'amoureux, and le chariot. First set. I should instantly say that I don't speak French, so my French pronunciation is atrocious. You will have to forgive me for it in my videos. At one point, I'm going to probably sit down with a French speaker and do a session on French pronunciation of tarot cards, but that's in the road works. So, next set of 7. The next set of 7 is seen as the subconscious, the inner search, or the inner dimension. You're moving from the outer world towards the inner world. Yeah, so there's a progression from the start of the deck throughout to becoming more spiritual, more divine. So the next 7 are le Justice, le Hermite, the Rove de Fortune, or the Wheel of Fortune, le Force, strength, le Pendu, or the Hanged Man, number 13, or death in some decks, temperance, or temperance in other decks. And then the final 7 are sometimes seen as the superconscious, or the spiritual awareness. Rachel Pollack kind of talks about them being the superconscious, the archetypes, the beyond just our personal spiritual dimension, but the universal unconscious, like a Jungian kind of theory. So here we've got le diable, or the devil, the maison deux, sometimes known as the tower, but here it's the house of God, le stole, the star, le lune, or the moon, le soleil, or the sun, the judgment, or judgment, le monde, or the world. So those are the 3 7s that you sometimes see. So when we're going through the deck, you'll notice that there's a slightly different hint or tip about how to interpret it based on whether it's in the first 7, the second 7, or the third 7. If you got a spread that's predominantly 1 to 7 cards, then that spread is hinting that the client that you're reading for is preoccupied with outer world concerns or everyday life. If you are seeing a spread that's based on the second sphere, then you're looking at someone that's becoming very subconscious or psychological, or looking deeply at themselves and reflecting. So you can use those sets of 7 to help you interpret the spread, but also help you interpret the card and what dimension it's kind of talking in. The other thing to know in terms of generic patterns in the tarot is this thing called the Fool's Journey. The Fool's Journey is so named after this guy here. It is about how he progresses through the tarot. So he is going from tarot number 1 all the way through to card 22. And it's his journey that we're following as we're going through the deck. So as we go through these videos on the Major Arcana, each card in turn is the next stop of the Fool. So they can be seen as a progression, a general progression from 1 to 22. That should be quite obvious because they're literally numbered one after the other. A good way of seeing that, especially in the Marseille style decks, where you see that 3, 4, 5. Now, it might look like I'm just counting, but I'm trying to point out that this Roman numeral is not how you do Roman numeral 4. Roman numeral 4 is IV, 1 before 5. Here, it's just 4 ones. That some experts talk about as demonstrating that it's a progression. It's one on top of the last card. It's that Fool's journey of progression. So here we go with the 9 again. V 1 1 1 1. Not IX being 9, 1 before 10, but instead 5 plus 4 ones. So people say that this is not a mistake. It's to show that it's a progression. That this card is a progression from this card, and it's not a digression or removal from the next card. Yeah, that's might be a little bit complicated at the start, but just know that when we are looking at 4, we are looking at 1 on top of 3, not 5 minus 1. Yeah, so the Fool is coming to each in turn. They haven't got to 5 yet, so we're not talking about the 5th card. So that journey of the Fool goes through systematically and progressively. The other thing to say about that is that Fool's journey shows that the progression of the tarot is from 1 to 22. It's that way. We're getting towards the end of the journey. So the destination is card number 22. The origin is card number 1. That means that the end of the cards are more about a goal or a state of being than the earlier cards. So here we go. Le Monde is here. Le Monde's quite a special card in a lot of ways. This is the end. This is card number 21. And it shows this person sometimes seen as hermaphroditic. I think it's kind of shown as oh no, not quite. Some cards kind of have this as kind of like hermaphrodite. But we kind of see this lemon shape here of kind of duality, this blue and the red kind of married together in this kind of one person. So one of the things that people say about the tarot is that it shows a progression from duality to unity. Like this idea that we're moving from l'Imperatrice and the Emperor, definitely opposites or at least binary figures, moving to solitary concepts, whole concepts. So we're integrating parts of our psychology if you're a psychological reader, or energies if you're a more kind of, I hazard to say hippy dippy because that's referring to me, but more of a spiritual reader. So this unifying of duality is a theme in the tarot. And we culminate here. So one part of the Fool's journey could be looking at how to integrate parts of himself in terms of duality or in terms of things that is dissociated from psychologically into a state of unity, a state of perfection in some ways. It almost looks like an alchemical alembic, someone in a alchemical vase, undergoing a process of completion. So moving through the tarot, we have that progression. So if there's an awful lot of cards that are 1s and 2s, 3s and 4s in a spread, that's still quite early days. If we're seeing a lot of cards that are much later in the suit, we're looking at much more end stages. So also see the cards as a progression from 1 through to 21, with each of the cards moving towards something, whether that's a journey of self-realization, whether that's a journey of enlightenment, whether that's a journey of unity or lack of division, those kind of psychological journeys. So that's a very quick whirlwind tour of the Major Arcana. Why I wanted to show you that was, as we're going through the card meanings individually, pay attention to where it comes in the whole of the Major Arcana, and how it builds on the previous card and how it leads onto the next card. But also keep in mind those 3 sets of 7 that I'm talking about. Is this in the first set of 7 that is about everyday world concerns? Or is this the set of second 7 that's about the subconscious and inner searches? Or is it in the third set of 7 that's about the superconsciousness or the spiritual awareness or the greater kind of picture? So we have gone through the 2 decks that I'm going to be using for the next videos, the 22 cards and how they're not full sets of anything, and there's always exceptions, the 2 major exceptions to the rule that all cards have 3 things: a number, a picture and a name, how the cards can be broken down into 21 cards plus 1, and how those 21 cards can be broken down into 3 sets of 7, and how they should be seen as a progression from the start to the end, which is known as the Fool's Journey. I'm going to be leaving the Fool card until last. We're going to start off the next video talking about the Magician card. The reason for that is it's quite a complex card and I want to kind of do it justice. And it'll be easier to understand it when we've worked out basically the 21 cards it's not, if that makes sense. So my next video is going to be on the Magician. If you haven't subscribed already, click below whichever corner it is, and feel free to like and comment on my videos. I will reply to as many comments as I possibly can. And get your tarot deck ready and carry on watching. Thank you very much.